Part 38. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 379. Zai Wei nodded with satisfaction and did not expect that this speech actually attracted so many listeners, which is undoubtedly a very good start. Sitting in the first row, Princess Lucia has already seen her eyes. She is less than 5 meters in straight line from Zai Wei. This is a very close distance. This Sylvester Frost master is really handsome and temperamental. 11 Wei did not pay too much attention to the Princess Lucia. He smiled slightly and his gentle eyes swept through all the audience present. Everyone felt that he had made a look with the master Sylvester Frost. Exchange, the original heart with scrutiny, disdain, curiosity and questioning seems to settle down instantly and calm down a lot. This is the new research result of Zai Wei on emotional magic. Although it is not a spell, it is also very rare, because his audience is not an ordinary person, but a magician who gathers the essence of the entire French kingdom. This is an unexpected surprise. Zai Wei can already guess the identity of the old man. He politely nodded and started today's speech. The Royal Academy of Magic in France is the highest school of magic in the entire kingdom, and it can also be called the home of the Change School. The Change spell is the school created by the great Victory Lord Victor Hugo, and the essence of the Change School philosophy is to seek change and seek new things by understanding the changes in things. And the Elemental School, the oldest school of magic, seems to have been unable to keep up with the changes of the times, on the verge of being eliminated. Most magicians choose to practice some very useful elemental spells at the basic stage. Once they reach the right level, they will choose another major school. The elemental school has become a stepping stone. Maybe this is because the elemental school did not produce a legendary magician. It is also said that the elemental school is nothing more than the use of the lowest level of elements between heaven and earth. There is nothing too high in technical content. On a barren soil, it is naturally impossible to bear sweet fruits. However, the element is the basis of magic. It is the element that constitutes the magic, and the existence of our magician. The search for the mystery of the element is almost the greatest pursuit of every elemental magician, and the concept of the Change School is used. In the elemental school, the collision of two different ideas can naturally create a spark of wisdom. The voice of Zai Wei can be said to be very nice, clear, and with a magnetic, and his opening words quickly caught almost all the audience, and he was very interested in the theme that Zai Wei will follow. Well, my ears are going to be pregnant, received the baptism of Zai Wei's voice at close range. Princess Lucia's face covered her face, and her face began to become blushing. Next, Zai Wei's speech is closely related to the theme of changes in the elements. The mysteries of some elements are explained in depth. Even if the audience of the elemental school's spells is not deep, there will be many gains. The magicians who like elemental spells have received too much inspiration. It can be said that Zai Wei's speech completely opened up ideas for them and helped them find new directions. Therefore, as the speech continued, there was no more whispering in the entire auditorium. Almost all the listeners were concentrating on the sound of Zai Wei Qing Lang. The time of the two magic moments flashed, and the speech finally came to an end. Finally, what I want to tell you is that the elements also contain such a fascinating core mystery, just like the veil on the face of the goddess. If you can grasp it and uncover it, it will be an epoch-making initiatives or even the key to a legendary magician. 11 Wei's speech finally ended. He was relieved and this speech should be quite successful. At this moment, the audience stood up in unison, and they rushed to vent their emotions. Zai Wei's speech was originally dry, and the 10 master-level composite element spells revealed are so innovative and have very powerful combat effects. In addition, the entire speech has undergone a zero touch, which is a very wonderful performance. The legendary caster Tyrell's Dean also stood up, gently bulging, with an appreciation in his eyes. Zai Wei's speech was undoubtedly a great success. The applause continued for a long time. Ben-Shaming had to stand up and appeal to the audience to sit down. Then he went to the regular questioning time. Almost all the listeners raised their hands and looked like a poplar forest. Ben-Shaman did not hesitate to choose the first president of Tyrell. The old dean stood up and said, "I feel a firm confidence in your words. Have you found it for the mystery of the elements you said?" This question is undoubtedly directed at the key, and it is also the question of most students. Belonging to the mystery of the etheric element, Zai has not only been discovered, but is gradually being mastered. But at this moment, Zai still has no ability to truly guard this mystery. He has not yet achieved the legendary magician. Therefore, Zai had to make a regrettable and confident look. "It is playing hide and seek with me, but I found it. I think it is not far away." Dean Tyrell was slightly disappointed, but he accepted the answer from Zai. His old face showed a happy smile. "I really hope that there will be a day when I can truly see the ultimate mystery of the element." 11 Wei couldn't bear to deceive the old man, but in a sense, this elementary school has accumulated for hundreds of years and became the magician of the legendary caster. It is he who competes for the elementary school legendary magician on the road. Potential enemy. Therefore, Zai can only smile and say, "I believe that this day will not be too far away." Dean Tyrell did not sit down again, but turned and left, leaving the auditorium. When Tyrell left, the atmosphere of the entire auditorium was instantly active for 3 points. Princess Lucia jumped up and squatted in front of Ben-Shaman, so that Ben-Shaming had to order her as the second question. Audience. What I want to ask is, do you have a girlfriend now? Lucia looked at the Zai on the podium with a look of admiration. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 380. After a moment of silence, the audience burst into laughter. Antonio laughed and leaned forward, coughing up, and the flower hen Marco became instantly gloomy, hands clenched into fists, nails fell into the palm of his hand. Sure enough, it's a trouble. I noticed that Zaiwei's graceful response in this scene. "I'm sorry, I already have a fiancée, I love her very much, and she loves me too." Well, really, a good man has long been the first to get started. Princess Lucia pouted and sat down unsatisfied. In the world of Orient, the real wealthy aristocrats and ordinary people accept two different kinds of education. Even in a sense, the French royal family with the golden lion's blood is not a purely human. Although Princess Lucia did not awaken the blood of the golden lion, she lost the possibility of inheriting the throne, but this does not mean that she will be a stupid sweet. On the contrary, as a princess of France, politics and power must be the instinct to penetrate deep into her bones. Therefore, Zai did not develop an emotional relationship with the Princess Lucia. For the marriage of Princess Lucia, Charles VIII must have long-term planning and arrangements. I wanted Princess Olivia to marry the Count of Bonaparte. The whole Corsica became a part of the territory of the Kingdom of France. And for many years, the Count of Carlo Bonaparte was eaten by Princess Olivia, and the people of Corsica gradually recognized the identity of the people of the French kingdom. It is a very amazing woman full of wisdom. In the same way, those stupid mixed-race aristocrats have a lot of shackles, but the foolish aristocratic heirs, almost none. The wealthy aristocracy monopolizes the knowledge and education rights of thousands of years. Every aristocratic family with long-term inheritance has numerous biography, ancestral messages, and even profound historical lessons passed on to future generations. Under this education mode, even a pig will be educated as a smart pig. Zai does not want to be contaminated with unnecessary troubles. The Princess Lucia is probably a bottomless whirlpool. The audience's questions were normal, and the focal length was almost entirely on academic issues. After all, it was a speech at the Royal Academy of Magic, not at a literary salon initiated by aristocratic ladies. For these questions, Zai naturally answered them one by one. He is quick-thinking, articulate, and expressive. He easily answers all the questions and is full of unique philosophical wisdom. When the questioning session continued for a whole period of magic, under the continuous statement of bench shaming, the audience finally stopped asking questions. This speech was obviously a great success. With this good start, the promotion of the exchange program will be very smooth. The distance from Pili to Violet is far away, but it is hard to beat the magicians. For the Royal Academy of Magic in France, Ziwei did not have much thought. After all, it was the school of change. He did not intend to let the Violet Academy engrave too many imprints that were not their own. After the end of this speech, it was already the afternoon of May 16. The sunshine was shining. Just after leaving the gate of the Royal Academy of Magic, Ziwei discovered a luxurious red rose emblem inscribed outside the college. 4 carriages. A jade hand with white lace gloves stretched out a small window and gently waved at Ziwei. Under the curtain was a perfect face. Ziwei made a slight glimpse, and chose to board the expensive carriage of the gods. "Miss Sophie, are you waiting for me?" Ziwei showed a very honorable expression. In front of the Lord of Music, he was still very relaxed. After all, watching a beautiful woman who is pleasing to the eye is always a meeting. People have a good mood. Moreover, the Master of Music has gradually begun to transcend the identity of mortals and transform into a real god, so that she will naturally be more rational. And between Ziwei and the music master, it is obviously a mutual benefit and a relationship without any potential interest disputes. "Yeah, I heard that you will have a speech here today, so I am here waiting for you." Sophie Mathilde showed a big smile. "I really want to go in and listen to your speech. Unfortunately, this is the Royal Academy of Magic." Although Sophie Mathilde is a demigod who is not a combatant, her true strength is definitely far beyond the general legend. Such a strong and change master is at a level, naturally not easy. Set foot on the other side's territory. "Thank you for your support, Miss Sophie. In any case, I can get a big beauty." Ziwei's mood is still very comfortable. "Of course I have to eat a snack." Sophie squinted at Ziwei. "I don't know if you are so popular, have you seen the one in Notre Dame?" Ziwei nodded and threw his own question, "In Pi, is there such a presence as the Lord of the Morning? Is there more?" After listening to the doubts of Ziwei, Sophie snorted with a grin. "Our existence, once it is active, almost escapes the perception of other demigods. The demigod that is currently active throughout the continent of Orient is also 10. Around the whole, the entire French kingdom, currently only me and Ulixia too." Ziwei pretend to exaggerate the sweat that does not exist. "I thought that the Orient world is now half god to go everywhere. Legend is not as good as a dog." 11 Wei's whimsical words clearly touched the smile of the Lord of Music, and Sophie Mathilde laughed and leaned forward, completely losing the elegant goddess in front of the outsiders. "Let's go, I will take you to see the performances on the streets of Pili." Only the last 2 days from the official opening of the Midsummer Night Music Festival, the Rose carriage traveled at high speed on the wide avenues of France. Soon it came to a flat green area. There are rivers, pools, fountains, trees, sculptures, meadows, and a romantic temperament. This is the largest park in Parle, the Luxembourg Gardens, and is open to the citizens of Paya. On the weekends, in the evening, there are always many citizens walking in the grass, reading at the pool, speaking in front of the sculpture, and squatting in the forest. With the gradual approaching of the Midsummer Night Music Festival, it has become a favorite place for artists. Music lovers from all over the French kingdom and even the whole of the European Union have performed here. They brought their hometowns. The unique performance attracted a large number of French citizens to come and enjoy. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 381. Ziwei and Sufi walked down the carriage side by side, but no one noticed the perfect pair of men and women who were not like mortals. They still did what they were doing. Obviously this is the Lord of Music who used his own abilities, otherwise she will inevitably cause the madness of the entire Pi once she appears in public. Although the Orient 6 is not very mature at the music exhibition, due to the diversity of race, country, and culture, it is obvious that both music and instruments have a very distinctive style, and can play a variety of unique songs. Moreover, the musicians who dared to travel long distances to come to Wangdu Pi and perform in front of the public, all had their own skills, which attracted the people of Pi, and the entire Luxembourg Park became a sea of joy. Although it was not in the evening, the most prosperous time of the day, but there were already many performers in the park, each occupying an open area, carrying out a performance with a comparison and show-off. In addition to humans, there is also a dwarf band, a half-elf singer, and two rough singers of orc descent. Their performances are obviously very popular, crowded with a large audience. However, they are still not the most shining performers in the Luxembourg Park. In the center of the park, the square is covered with white marble. At this time, it is already crowded with dense people. There are 3 floors and 3 floors, and there are even people standing far away on the hills, or climb down to the tree and look down. From the center of the crowd, there was a light and comfortable instrument. A singer was singing his own voice and was full of unique personal style and charm. This novel instrument and novel song performance was obviously moved the discerning Pi citizens. They are all crazy, completely become the captive of music. He is your student. Sophie glanced at the guitar in the singer's hand and smiled at Ziwei. It's a friend I met on the road, a very good young man, Ziwei nodded. His name is Johnny, and he is determined to be a bard. This trend-setting singer is the friend Johnny who met with him on the road. In just 10 days, he has been very familiar with the guitar, and obviously has worked hard. At this time, the song he was playing had a very light tunes, and the lyrics spit out in his mouth had a faint bitterness. This song was first born in the 1960s and has been covered by countless people. The Chinese version of Love You in Your Heart is also very widely sung. It is a love song with a sense of vicissitudes. Johnny is long and fluttering, his face is handsome, and with the passion of playing, his feelings are fully integrated into the song. It seems that the songs that do not have much profound connotations hold the hearts of all the listeners. This performance has undoubtedly achieved great success. In the first row of the audience, 11 Wei saw the figure of Yelena Luzalis. The Marquis seemed to be familiar with Johnny. She was wearing a white dress and looked at Johnny quietly. The wonderful performances of the two people have eye contact from time to time. There are also a lot of enthusiastic and bold girls in the crowd responding to Johnny. In their opinion, this handsome and melancholic man is full of charm, his singing is so touching that many women I want to have a romantic relationship with him. Sophie Mathilde quietly listened to the song, she was also slightly moved. The live appeal of this type of song is really strong. The singer named Johnny did not touch any bard skills, he is just singing in a natural voice, but he is so touching. Moreover, this type of performance simplifies the difficulty of singing songs, narrows the distance between the singer and the audience, and breaks the original boundary. This is the charm of pop music. Seeing this scene with his own eyes, even if he is already a semi-god strong, Sophie Mathilde is excited. From this moment on, pop music will be the biggest driving force on her way to God, which will completely change the existing music landscape. Ziwei and Sophie just stood here and listened to Johnny's wonderful singing. He sang 5 songs in a row. Everyone was so eager to grasp the hearts of the people. The audience was more and more crowded. Finally, they occupied the entire square. The size of 1,000 people. In the end, Johnny finally stopped singing. He was sweating all over the singer, but at this moment he was completely immersed in the joy of being recognized by so many people, holding his own guitar as a second life. Excited and turned around, he paid tribute to the audience who surrounded him in the center. Thunderous applause sounded at the right time. For this novel instrument and wonderful songs, almost all music lovers have the greatest interest and love. This kind of song is different from the vulgar or overly rustic country tune. It is also different from the classical music that noble and elegant can only enjoy in the upper class. The catchy songs are just heard once and someone can sing along, and this the lyre in the hands of the singer seems to be very simple, but it can play very beautiful and beautiful tunes, almost no loss to the piano solo. Johnny looked at the enthusiastic crowd, his face filled with a smile of joy. I am the representative of Leon City to participate in this Midsummer Night Music Festival. I hope everyone can cheer for me. At this festival, his treatment will definitely be 2 days of ice and fire. The people like it, experts approved, Ziwei said with emotion. Reassured, Ziwei, Sufi blinked in the eyes, your friend will be a great success at this festival. Regarding the belief, Sophie is much more difficult to get a big killer that can spread the music to the current limit. She will never allow anyone to destroy this new trend. 11 Wei, I want to invite you to be the judge of the final day of the Midsummer Night Music Festival. How? Sophie made a suggestion. Can you? Ziwei asked. Of course, Master Ziwei's reputation is enough to convince the public, Sufi said with a smile. That is so happy to decide. See the finals, Master Ziwei. See the finals, Lord Sophie, Ziwei responded politely. The next moment, Sophie Mathilde's figure has completely disappeared from the Luxembourg Gardens. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 382. Back to the Chamber of Fortune, Ziwei finally saw the card again. The sound of the card is not very good, obviously it has taken a lot of effort in the operation of the Violet Chamber of Commerce. Unlike when you are still at a wealth chamber, you only need to be a decision maker. Although he has not left the Rothschild family, he can't get much help from the family. Many executive affairs must be done personally. The promotion of cameras and recreational vehicles is still second. The most important thing is to build the Violet Chamber of Commerce and make a name for the first time. Drinking this can make you feel better. Ziwei threw a bottle of colorless and slightly silvery medicine. Kamiao did not ask much. He drank directly after opening it. The whole person's spirit was shocked. The numbness that had been exhausted to the extreme seemed to have been renourished and disappeared. What kind of pharmacy is this? It seems to be better than the dreamy blur effect, asked the card. This is the spiritual supplement that is made from the moon well water and extracted by my processing. 11 Wei asked, what is the dream of confusion? A hallucinogenic agent can improve mental excitement and help the magician to cast spells, Kamiao whispered to Ziwei. It is sold in the fascinating White Crow pub, where is the gathering point of a spiritual school mage. Don't dare to set up a fixed stronghold in Par, Ziwei asked inexplicably, knowing that the spiritual master was included in the list of the most severe blows by the glorious Lord's Church. It just appeared in the last 2 years, and it was because I cooperated with the Fortune Chamber of Commerce. I know. Kamiao frowned slightly. Many underground forces have begun to become more active, and it seems that they have not been so scrupulous. The existence of the Lord's Church. Come, can you give me the main newspapers issued in Pili, and the information about the gold masters and forces behind them? Ziwei also raised a new question. Does the president of Ziwei want to cooperate, or want to control a propaganda channel belonging to the Violet Chamber of Commerce? The card is a member of the Rothschild family, and he quickly guessed the intention of Ziwei. The right to speak is a very important right, Ziwei explained. There must be a media to speak for us and the group we represent. At this stage, the newspaper is undoubtedly the best choice. I did neglect this. Now there are about 7 or 8 kinds of best-selling newspapers in Wangdu Pili, but there are also many tabloids. The paper-based media has appeared for less than 30 years, and its status is not too high. The influence is not too big, and there is no predator to enter the market to complete the monopoly. But the main audience of the newspapers are small aristocrats, businessmen, literate citizens, workers, and clerk. These are the foundations of our strength, and they have a very high coincidence with the source of our magic apprentices. With the increase in literacy rate and the gradual popularization of basic education, newspapers will be a very important media channel for a long time. The Violet Chamber of Commerce must occupy this propaganda territory as soon as possible. This will be the focus of the next period of work. I am looking for some information from Mrs. Adele. Kaka nodded. The card is very efficient, and in a time of magic, it comes with a thick piece of information in front of Ziwei. At present, the newspaper industry is mainly divided into three major systems. The first royal system, the most important one, is the French Royal Daily, which is the mouthpiece of the royal family, focusing on military, political, and major political affairs, currently ranking first in sales. The influence is also the strongest. The second is the big nobility and the church system. The highest sales are the Orleans family's paper Fans, which is a newspaper that almost everyone who wants to live in the society will subscribe to, leading the fashion. The weather vane. The Guanghui Lord's Glory rumor published by the Church of the Glorious Church is also good. The third is the merchant system, mainly various commercial newspapers and magazines. At present, the most sold French business daily, almost all merchants will subscribe wonderful brief telling about the general situation of Ziwei. Is there a newspaper that tells the general public about the short, living life of the parents? 11 Viang raised his brow. Yes, but they are all tabloids. These newspapers use lace and colored paper to attract readers. The sales are uneven, and the evaluation is very bad. Kamitan paused. President Ziwei, we want to do this kind of newspaper. Yes. Based on the masses, write what the public wants to see the most, write the people's most concerned. Ziwei nodded, looking for a poorly run, suitable acquisition newspaper. We will complete the acquisition and transformation as soon as possible, taking advantage of the midsummer night music. The opportunity of the festival, open the situation as soon as possible. After a magical time, Ziwei and K Miao took a luxury carriage borrowed from the Fortune Chamber of Commerce and appeared outside a two-story building at the end of the 19th Avenue in Dongcheng district. The land price of Huangdu Pali is expensive to the west, where all the high officials are gathered, and Dongcheng district has become a place where the general public gathers, and there are even many slums. All the way, the buildings on both sides of the road are getting shorter and shorter, getting older and older, and the clothes worn on the citizens are getting more and more broken, but the destination has not yet appeared in the slums. Is it here? Ziwei walked down the carriage. It seems that they are really not very good. Yes, now the Murdoch family has fallen into a big trouble. Kay is dressed in a uniform with a brown leather briefcase, a demeanor of a secretary. The Murdoch family has a baron. The title is also quite prominent in the country. However, in Huangdu Pili, a little baron is really not at all eye-catching. 30 years ago, the then family clan Ashton Murdoch had just graduated from the First National University of France and personally founded the first newspaper of the French kingdom, Paria, which was obtained in a short time. Great success, tens of thousands of copies can be sold every day. However, soon the business was dying. Although the other party is very big, it is the hard work of the old Murdoch. He will never allow anyone to take advantage of it. Even in the most critical situation, he personally rang the big clock hanging in front of the French aristocratic coat of arms. His Majesty the King will arbitrate. Although it was only a small baron, it also represented the order of the nobility. Under the mediation of Charles VII, the two sides finally shook hands and said that the other party never tried to control the newspaper. But very soon, a Palais Evening News was released, and soon exceeded the sales of the Parley Daily. The original Parley Daily dealers turned to their opponents. Parley Daily, it fell from the peak and fell into disrepair. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 383. However, the old Murdoch has been insisting on the release of the Par daily, although there has been no influence. However, now, Murdoch has fallen to the hospital bed, and his children do not have a career to inherit his father. Pili Evening News, who's the industry? Ziwei asked in disapproval. The Marquis of Gloucester. This is really a coincidence. This two-story building is not bad, but it is obviously not well maintained, cracks have begun to appear on the wall, and there is almost no new furniture. There are no recent popular magic lights in the room, the glass windows are broken, blocked with thick cloth, and the whole small building looks very dark. It was the son of the old Murdoch who came to meet 11 Wei and Kamiao. Little Ashian Murdoch, compared to his father, he looked a lot more sleek and with a warm smile. Old Murdoch has been sick in bed for more than a year, and little Murdoch has long wanted to sell the Parley Daily's cumbersome loss of money. The entire Murdoch family's assets are in these. The year has shrunk dramatically, and it's already a lot less than a lot of civilian businessmen. But as long as the old Murdoch is still alive in this world, little Murdoch has no right to control the family. It's not that no one wants to buy the Par Daily in the past few years. This is a very loud newspaper name, and it happened in the French aristocratic coat of arms 30 years ago, and the dispute was personally arbitrated by Charles VII. In the middle, the newspaper name Parley Daily belongs to the property of the Murdoch family and is sacred and inviolable. However, the conditions they gave were too bad. Not only did Murdoch not agree, but even Murdoch could not look at it. At least he had to pay back the money that the family had spent in the industry. But the guest who came here today can be different. The luxury carriage parked outside has almost stunned the eyes of little Murdoch in an instant. This is the carriage of the Fortune Chamber of Commerce. The Fortune Chamber of Commerce is synonymous with gold coins. Although the two guests look young, but the temperament is noble, it is likely to be the heir of a big family, definitely not a small Murdoch can offend. Therefore, his attitude is very polite, very enthusiastic, and Jane has reached the level of humility. The two sides talked briefly. After a few steps, Kamiao reached a consensus with Xiao Murdoch. The number he said has exceeded the psychological bottom line of little Murdoch, and the other party's power status is also little Murdoch can't resist it. I want to meet your father. Ziwei didn't have time to deal with him, and he made his own request. On the second floor, the old Murdoch room was even lighter, and it was dark at noon, and it was almost impossible to see the layout inside the house. Little Murdoch personally lit a candle, and it was obvious that the Murdoch family had fallen to the point where even the maid could not afford it. The old Murdoch in the hospital bed is already a ruin, and seems to have reached the end of life. He saw the coming, the murky eyes flashed a glimmer of light, just shook his head gently, then closed his eyes. Father! This is the last chance, little Murdoch said excitedly in his father's ear, they are willing to make this number. However, the old Murdoch still just shook his head firmly and said nothing. Little Murdoch patted his thigh and yelled, Father, you open your eyes and look at this home. What kind of situation has the Murdoch family decayed in your hands? I remember when I was a child. At that time, we lived in a garden villa, there was a butler, there was a maid, there was a carriage, and there was meat in the meal. But now, Eve has to cook in person, she is my wife, the future Baroness. The dry is the life of the cook and the maid. Your two grandchildren are no different from the civilians outside. They don't even have the money to go to school. In the future, don't talk about college, even the middle school can't go up. The Parley Daily is only 30 years old, but it has only been brilliant for less than a year. The remaining 29 years have already hollowed out all the savings of our family. We really can't afford it. Mr. Murdoch disregarded the existence of 11 Wei and Kamiao, and screamed with red eyes, Father, you are for me, think about your grandson and the whole family. The 2 lines of tears slowly slipped from the dry wrinkles of the old Murdoch's eyes, and his hands were tightly caught on the sheets. After a long time, The old Murdoch finally nodded slightly, no words, no motion, as if he had been summoned by the Lord of Glory. Little Murdoch wiped a tear. Respected guests, let you laugh. My father has agreed, I will take the family crest, and we can sign the contract and complete the transaction. 11 Wei nodded slightly to Ka Miao, and Miao took out a well-prepared document from the briefcase and walked out of the room behind Little Murdoch. 11 Wei sat on the edge of the bed, his hand gently floating above the head of the old Murdoch, the palms of the hand shining bright silver stars. The silvery light shines in the dark bedroom, brighter than the candle, like a cool moon, nourishing the old Murdoch to the ultimate body because of years of illness. The body of the old Murdoch trembled a little, his body hunger and thirst took this glorious grace, as if the dry land was so thirsty for the rain. Silver light lasted for a long time and has not weakened or dissipated. Finally, the old Murdoch opened his eyes, the already turbid eyes became bright again. He asked, "What is this?" "Mrs. Silver Moon's grace," Zai Wei smiled and responded, "Mr. Murdoch, I'm glad to meet you, call me Zai Wei." "Mr. Zai Wei, old Murdoch is not worth your shot this time." Old Murdoch knew that the healing spells at least had the last high-level therapeutic magic, so the price was the Murdoch family can never get it. However, he felt that his already chaotic mind was clear again, the stubborn disease had completely disappeared, and the vitality of life reappeared from within the body. "Mr. Murdoch, I want to hire you to be the editor-in-chief of the Pars Daily. How about a monthly salary of 30 gold francs?" Zai Wei smiled and said his own conditions. The old Murdoch has insisted on this career for 30 years and can be said to be a true model of the newspaper industry. Moreover, before the departure of Zai Wei, I have already seen the Pari Daily, which was collected by Kaya, especially in recent years. In a certain sense, it has already coincided with the views of Zai Wei. The old Murdoch is not awkward. Is a newspaper wizard. However, the Palais Daily was persevered by the Palais Evening News. The other party continued to create trouble for the Murdoch family, so that the influence of this newspaper is getting lower and lower, and finally with the old doc fell on the bed, and it was about to stop the publication. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 384. For the old Murdoch, today's mood is really ups and downs. He finally put down the Par Daily at the time of his death, but he did not expect to be pulled back from the edge of death and re-elected as the newspaper editor-in-chief. Mr. Zai Wei, I want to remind you that it is not that the Par Daily is not good looking, but that someone has not wanted to look good for 30 years, old Murdoch did not rush to promise. Of course I understand all the circumstances, Zai Wei returned with a confident smile, everything will no longer be an obstacle. I am the editor-in-chief, and the contents of the newspaper must be approved by me. Old Murdoch began to fight for rights. He did not want to be a nameless person. This is the link we need to communicate in advance, so Zai Wei and the old Murdoch began to have a pleasant exchange on the revision of the Palais Daily. Although the old Murdoch is very old, but the sense of smell is still very keen, Zai Wei only slightly mentioned a bit, he almost instantly realized the blank of the market, a true for the general public, and has a high degree of credibility. The media naturally has a large number of potential audiences. Kami and Little Murdoch have finally completed the contract. From today, the Par Daily has become an industry under the Violet Chamber of Commerce. The newspaper was on the street next door to Murdoch's house. It was already very old and there were not many workers, but this was not a problem for Zai Wei. The Par Daily has disappeared from the eyes of most citizens for too long. Many people simply do not know that this is the first newspaper in France, and it is not known that it was brilliant 30 years ago. Therefore, after the revision of the Palais Daily wants to be a hit, it is necessary to seize a matter of great concern to the public to report, and the Midsummer Night Music Festival is undoubtedly the most influential event. The entire city of Paris has become a city of music, with musicians from all over the mainland of Europe playing, singing and dancing, turning the city into a sea of joy. The Midsummer Night Music Festival officially opened on May 18 in the Luxembourg Gardens. This very large park has been simply remodeled and built, making it a venue for music performances. The Luxembourg Gardens are open and located in the heart of the city of Paris. The traffic is well developed and can accommodate 30,000 people at the same time. It is the best venue for events. But only the noble status of the Duke of Roses can easily tell the royal family and the mayor of Paris, and use the Luxembourg Park as the venue for the Midsummer Night Music Festival for half a month. The biggest transformation is to build a 3-story stage and auditorium on the Marble Plaza in the center of the park. It will be the main stage of the Midsummer Night Music Festival, which is recommended by the music associations around the mainland. A high-level musicians playing field. The 9th Magic Time Music Festival will be officially opened in the morning, but before the 8th Magic, there are already colorful luxury horse-drawn carriages parked outside the Luxembourg Park. These carriages almost blocked the originally very spacious avenue. Numerous dressed aristocrats came down from the luxury carriage. The Midsummer Night Music Festival is not only a feast for the civilians, but also a festival for the nobility. Listening to the concert is undoubtedly a very elegant experience in their lives, and from Sophie. The invitation of the Duke of Mathilde is an invitation that no one can refuse. It can be said that on this day, almost the entire King of Paris dignitaries appeared here, just more than the nobility that appeared on the Christmas day at the great mass hosted by the Notre Dame of Paris. In a purple-red evening gown, Mathilde greeted the guests on the VIP viewing platform. Every nobleman, regardless of the power of the title, was a surprised smile in the face of the Duke of Rose. Then passionately communicate with her. At this moment, Sophie Mathilde is the core of the entire Luxembourg Park, and those ordinary people can only look far and wide to the super idol. The biggest guest in the room appeared in the last quarter of an hour before the opening. A royal carriage with a golden lion emblem came flying above the sky and stopped in front of the observation deck. Yes, this carriage is towed by 8 white horses, and can fly freely in the sky. Down from the carriage are 4 members of the royal family: Queen Barbara, Prince of Cloudfield, Prince Helsinki, and Princess Lucia. Queen Barbara looks very young and has barely left any marks on her. Queen Barbara is the last princess and queen of the Kingdom of Luxembourg. After she married Charles VIII, the Kingdom of Luxembourg was incorporated into the Kingdom of France, and the Luxembourg Park was built by King Charles VIII for Queen Barbara. Sophie cordially took over the arms of Queen Barbara. The two people exchanged intimately and apparently had very good personal relationships. Although the two emperors also wanted to get together and chatted with the Duke of Rose, they were soon surrounded by aristocrats who came to the forefront like a flood. They only had a polite smile and showed the noble style of the royal family. Relatively speaking, there are fewer people around the Princess Lucia, because both the Prince of Unfield and the Prince of Helsinki have awakened the blood of the Golden Lion, and the heirs of the future will inevitably arise between the two. Only along Charlie, who is less than 50 years old, is still young and strong, and there will be a long time from the alternation of the throne, so everyone is not too overheated. Princess Lucia had long been accustomed to this kind of differential treatment. Her eyes were swept away on the VIP table, and she quickly discovered Antonio of the Orleans family. She smiled slightly and was about to pass, but she was short and fat. The figure suddenly stopped in front of him. "Princess Lucia, I am very happy to meet you here." Flower Hen Marco made a standard aristocratic ceremony, gently caught the hand of Princess Lucia, and printed a kiss on the back of her hand. Lucia resisted the goosebumps, and almost quickly pulled out her hand when Mark posted her. For the enthusiasm and entanglement of the flower hen, Lucia often thought that she would marry early. But Lucia is happy that the Midsummer Night Music Festival is about to open, and Marco has not had many opportunities. Soon everyone has settled down and quietly admired the feast of the music. The opening ceremony was personally delivered by the head of the music, Lord Sophie Mathilde. The costumes on her body have become a feather coat, a long-sleeved man dance, a fluttering hem, and a light body floating in the air. It is like a true goddess. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 385. At this moment, not only the guests on the VIP seats, but even the citizens who did not receive the invitation and did not have the money to buy tickets, can also pay tribute to the superb face and temperament of the Duke of Rose. This is undoubtedly a scene created by Sufi. It is a compulsory subject for every strong person who is interested in the belief in God. He has never been able to open up his faith and seal the gods when he is not seen. Unlike other potential competitors, she is determined to become a goddess of music. She can also spread her own ideas and establish her own organization in a peaceful era, which makes her undoubtedly a step ahead in the path of faith in God. The other half-gods who are powerful in their priesthood can only wait until the end of the original contract, and the moment when the cockroaches on their heads are completely broken, can they begin their own carnival and journey. And when everyone looked at the perfect goddess with a stunned look, one person gently buckled the shutter and took the perfect scene into the camera. He has a thick black hair, a sharp eyebrow, a deep eyelid and a straight nose, a navy blue uniform that looks like he is about 30 years old, full of the charm that a mature man should have. The camera hanging on his chest is the highest-end model produced by the Violet Chamber of Commerce, which is a shot, and is a color photo. After taking a few photos of the Duke of Roses from various angles, he began an interview with the selected target. "Hello, I am Joe Bledley, the chief reporter of the Par Daily. Can I ask where you are from? How is the instrument in your hand played?" He stopped an old man who performed a unique instrument. "Parley Daily. I am very glad to meet you. I am from the Black Forest at the foot of Mount Abis, and I can do it with my old bush." The old man was very excited. He did not expect that he also had a day of interviews, not to mention the Par Daily. Listening is so tall. The old man named George Bush introduced himself excitedly. His love and pursuit of music is his lifelong dream. This time he traveled far and wide, just to let more people know about their hometown. A unique instrument. Old Bush gently pulled up the strings and began to play his most skillful movements. Joe Bradley captured the most concentrated and expressive moment of the old man's performance, and then quietly left after a chill. This scene in the field did not affect the progress of the Midsummer Night Music Festival. In the first day of the musical performance, there was no doubt that the piano, various orchestras, and symphony orchestras were mainly played. It is a privilege to be able to perform at the opening ceremony. It is important to know that the Midsummer Night Music Festival lasts for 15 days, but today it is probably the most noble day for the guests. The musicians recommended by the music associations around the mainland of Europe are very excited. They try to play their highest level and give the best performance to the music master, to the royal family members in the VIP seats. Great aristocrats. Queen Barbara has been very polite to listen to the performance, and the music that I admire will be applauded gently. Every applause will make the applause around me. Only her 3 children are obviously not very good at the nature of the music. The 2 princes still have enough city houses to sit here safely, and Princess Lucia is somewhat uncomfortable. Just as she was extremely bored, she suddenly found a handsome figure who walked through the door and walked into the infield. The man is not too handsome to look at his face, but he has a unique temperament that almost no one can ignore him. The man who came in was Joe Bledley, and during the music performance, he also started an interview with the infield guests. Compared with the situation of the outsiders, the insiders are undoubtedly invited musicians and gentlemen with higher social status, as well as businessmen and small nobles who want to be arty and use it as a social occasion. Joe Bradley politely conducted his own interview, and he also left a precious photo with the camera. So Princess Lucia's vision fell entirely on the mysterious man. He looked politely and communicated with a person. Almost no one could refuse his interview, talk, take pictures, and then change one. It's like hard-working bees are brewing sweet honey. Just as Princess Lucia was blaspheming her body was touched by the Prince of Orsinki without a trace. Princess Lucia noticed that most of the audience had stood up and was applauding enthusiastically. She also quickly got up and just performed the symphony orchestra from the Holy Norman Empire, Vienna. Compared with Parly, Vienna is a music capital. In the past 30 years, there have been 12 A Midsummer Night Music festivals held in Vienna. The performance of the symphony orchestra clearly exceeded the previous level of the performer, causing the audience to stand up and pay tribute. The performance of the symphony orchestra is now the finale of the show. The in-house performance has ended, and the next time will be handed over to the field and the general audience. That is the time when the Midsummer Night Music Festival truly enjoys the charm and fun of the music for the general public. Queen Barbara stood up and had a cordial exchange with Sophie Mathilde. She finally boarded the royal carriage and chose to leave. The two princes did not rush to leave, they politely talked with the nobles who came up with them, which is undoubtedly a very good social occasion. Sophie Mathilde gave a sigh of relief, and she subconsciously glanced at an empty seat on the VIP seat. She had already arranged for people to send the invitations to the past. I don't know why Ziwei did not appear. But soon, there was a figure crowded out of the crowd, appearing in front of her. Duke of Sophie Mathilde, I am the chief reporter of Par Daily, Joe Bradley. I don't know me. Are you lucky enough to have an exclusive interview for you? For a demigod, all physical characteristics have no meaning. Sophie directly locates his dream star, and the chief reporter who appears in front of him is undoubtedly Ziwei. Sophie showed a big smile and responded enthusiastically, of course, Mr. Bradley. No matter where it appears, Sophie Mathilde will be the focus of most people's eyes. This scene has not escaped the vision of most people. What is the sacredness of this Joe Bradley, who can actually get an exclusive interview with Lord Rose the Lord Chance? To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 386. The Joe Bradley, who appears in the eyes of everyone, is just an ordinary person, and the VIPs in the VIP seats have a very large proportion of professionals, of which the proportion of high-ranking strong is very high. The strong is not uncommon. However, in the gaze of so many people, this Joe Bradley still looks good and seems to have been completely unaffected. Bradley? There seems to be only one surname in the Baron family in Rambler, but it doesn't make sense. The contemplative apparently had a profound study of the noble names of the French kingdom. In the eyes of everyone, Joe Bradley climbed the carriage of the Duke of Rose and entered the Rose Castle. How is it so high-key today? This is not at all in line with your character, Sophie asked with a smile. So I put on a vest. Ziwei was about to disarm, but was stopped by Sophie. Don't interview me as Joe Bradley, not Sylvester Frost. Ziwei has no choice. I really didn't see that Sophie actually likes role-playing. So Ziwei made an exclusive interview with a serious beginning, asked a lot of questions about music, and asked many topics that the public liked and heard but never heard. Is this really good? Sophie's face was a bit blushing, and the topic that Ziwei had just raised was actually asking her what the ideal man was like. To know that Sophie Mathilde, who is still single, has too many pursuers, but she has never responded. For the public, privacy is undoubtedly something they like more. For Miss Sophie, the proper disclosure of some privacy will undoubtedly give the general public a more realistic understanding of you and significantly bring you closer to you. Distance, Ziwei is a serious nonsense. The probability of turning into your followers is even higher. I always feel that you are a little uncomfortable. Sophie gave Ziwei a white eye. Isn't the gods all want to keep mystery, and open a certain distance with the believers? Miss Sophie, the times have changed, we must use a new perspective to see the development of things, Ziwei explained. If the two gods are preaching at the same time, one is very familiar with you, you know a lot about her situation. Another one you know nothing, mysterious. You are more willing to choose who to deliver the faith to. But the distance is too close, and in many cases there will be awkward desires, but there will be no faith. Sophie's attitude has become serious, and all matters of faith are very important for every demigod. I also like to communicate with Ziwei. This needs to grasp a balanced scale. Ziwei recalled the starry sky of the last world, and fans who want to get close to them and even marry them do not know how many, but the fans who are willing to offer all the fans are more. If those most successful stars versus want to establish a church, I am afraid that 1,000,000 believers will be drawn in a flash. Intimidation and mystery are only the most primitive religious means, and feelings and openness are the more effective ways to build faith. Ziwei and Sophie talked a lot, and finally Sophie still accepted the idea of Ziwei. Then go back to the original topic, Miss Sophie, what is the other half of your ideal? Sophie grinned, and the blurred agate looked at Ziwei in general. It seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied and seemed to be forced into the corner. Her soul has spent more than 1,000 years, but only at the moment when the original contract is about to end, she chose to become Sophie Mathilde, and finally prepare for the belief. Like the first light of the Orient world, the son of music, Ulysses, is the first note of the Orient world. They all have extraordinary origins. This is where they are. The original contract is still able to achieve the most critical reasons for the demigod. Therefore, music is the life of Sophie, and she is also the embodiment of music. This point defines that Sophie can only choose to become the goddess of music, she has no second way to go. For thousands of years, at first she was fascinated by the intoxication in the music. As the soul gradually sublimated, she began to have self-awareness, began to gradually gather faith, and the speed of growth is gradually accelerating. But until she really became Sophie Mathilde, with her flesh and blood and human identity, she can really speed up her pace, and the prosperity of the Music Association is undoubtedly from this time. He has a human body for 25 years, but Sophie has been fighting for the sake of God. How could she look at an ordinary mortal? This problem of Ziwei is undoubtedly a blind spot that Sophie never considered. Sense, maturity, long-term vision can help me in the career. Sophie still barely squeezed out some conditions, and then snorted, the first one, it seems that no longer intend to pay attention to Ziwei. For Sophie Mathilde's reply, Ziwei had to admire it. It is really a goddess reserve. Naturally, there is a high-end hunter talent for flying kites. Intellect, mature, long-term vision, almost every man thinks so. And can help me in my career, but also put myself in a weak position, inspiring the desire of every man to pursue and care. This answer will obviously make more people pay attention and interest to Sophie. The original music master is too far away from them, but as long as this interview comes out, she seems to descend from the sky to the world. After the interview, Ziwei arranged for Sophie Mathilde to take a lot of photos in the Rose Castle. Sophie Mathilde originally had a beauty beyond the limits of mortals. Even the world of Charlotte and Christine was a little worse than her, and among all the women I saw in Ziwei, Ms. Yin, who is only amazed, is more self-sufficient than her. The interior of Rose Castle is the perfect combination of luxury and art. The photography technology of Ziwei is also the peak of the second. With each other, each photo taken is perfect, even Sophie himself it was amazing. She became quite unreasonable and almost left all the photos. Ziwei had to talk for a long time, only to take away the most beautiful 3, and promised to return the 3 photos once the newspapers were printed. Come back. Out of the Rose Castle, Ziwei's heart is full of joy. With an interview with Sophie Mathilde, it can be said that the parley daily of the day has already held a big killer, which will surely be a shot. And read. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 387. The interviews with Ziwei and the photos are undoubtedly the most precious first-hand materials. After bringing these things to the returning agency, the old Murdoch, who had been waiting for a long time, began to organize and typeset. The first edition of the revised edition of the Pi-Ri Daily will be the special issue of the Midsummer Night Music Festival. The first edition is the general costume moment of the goddess Sophie Mathilde's opening speech. Also, for better visual results, the first edition will take color printing. With the letter of Sophie Mathilde, Ziwei also saw the symphony orchestra from Vanna, the music capital, and a simple interview with their conductor, leaving precious photos. When he got so much precious information, the old Murdoch's hand was shaking. The Par Daily has been in business for 30 years, but there has never been so much exclusive information. And the existence of photos is no doubt further than plain text. The printing machine provided by Mr. Ziwei is also a very advanced and powerful tool. So the old Murdoch seemed to be 30 years younger. His energetic struggle reached midnight and he finally finished editing the 16-page newspaper. The printing machine that has been prepared for a long time is started, and a large number of newspapers emitting ink scent are printed in batches. The staff of the card arrangement sent these newspapers and magazines to the Fortune Chamber of Commerce and the Bonaparte Chamber of Commerce in batches. The two chambers of commerce have very good sales channels in Pi-Li. In addition to the bookstores all over the streets, there are also direct links to the newspapers. A line of newsboys. For the famous newspaper of the Par Daily, both Ms. Adele and the Baron Humphrey have a certain understanding. Although the Marquis of Gloucester is expensive, it is not enough to shake them and the West. The closer the relationship is. So on the morning of May 19th, when the sky was slightly bright, the news of the newsboys was screaming on the streets of the whole Pi-Li Street. Parley Daily, color newspaper, Midsummer Night Music Festival special issue, the 16th edition only needs 3 copper coins. 3 copper coins can buy a big loaf, but anyone who sees the first generation version of Sophie Mathilde will not hesitate to pay for the newspaper. Therefore, every newspaper boy carries a thick glimpse of the Palais Daily, but he will not be able to sell out half a street. Many times they were even surrounded by citizens who heard the news, and a strong and powerful arm came out of the pile of people, holding 3 copper coins in their hands. This scene has undoubtedly become a wonder of the streets of Paris, causing numerous people to watch. In this case, the popularity of the Par Daily newspaper became inevitable. Although he was prepared to print 50,000 copies directly, what Ziwei didn't think was that only in the 7th magic in the morning, 50,000 copies of the Palais Daily were all sold out, whether it was the Fortune Chamber of Commerce or Bonaparte. The Chamber of Commerce is urging the newspaper to deliver the next batch of newspapers as soon as possible. Fortunately, the quality of the printing machine provided by Zero was very good. Ziwei directly printed a full 100,000 copies and handed it to the carriage that had been waiting outside the newspaper. It is necessary to know that the permanent population of the entire kingdom of Pi-Li is less than 2 million. Although the literacy ratio is quite high, there are only a maximum of 300,000 people. The 150,000 point Palais Daily means that every 2 literate people have bought this newspaper. This sales has undoubtedly created a miracle, far beyond the Royal French Journal. Major newspapers and magazines in the market, including the Glorious Monitor and the Franciscan Business. Old Murdoch only went back to sleep under the pull of Little Murdoch, and then rushed back to the newspaper. He was already excited to dance, and the glory of Parley Daily is undoubtedly his lifelong expectation. But I did not expect that happiness would come so easily when he was desperate. Although he has changed his master, but the old Murdoch did not mind. He knows that with his own ability, it is impossible to develop the Parley Daily to this scale. By the time of the 4th magic in the afternoon, just before the listing of the Pi-Li Evening News, all the 150,000 copies of the Pi-Ri Daily were sold, and Ziwei did not order to print again. Although all the newspapers today have almost all the news about the Midsummer Night Music Festival, but with the epoch-making special issue of the Par Daily, everything has become dwarfed. They couldn't get an exclusive interview with the Duke of Roses, and it was impossible to have so many beautiful photos. In the 16th edition of the Par Daily, almost half of the space is photographs. There are colored, black and white, venues, and characters, almost perfect for all the citizens to reproduce the scene of the opening ceremony of the Midsummer Night Music Festival yesterday. More eye-catching, no doubt the Lord of the Duke of Roses is in the state of the whole country, whether it is the full-page color picture on the opening ceremony of the first edition, or the scenery inside the Rose Castle in the back interview, and the unique style of Sophie, which makes people's eyes unable to bear. The focal length in this newspaper can't be removed. The chief reporter Joe Bradley's interview with the Duke of Rose undoubtedly earned enough attention, knowing that a small reporter could be invited to enter the interior of the Rose Castle by Lord Sophie Mathilde, for any French nobleman. In terms of this is a supreme honor. Such a newspaper has already caused a sensation in the entire city of Paris, and naturally entered every powerful family. Princess Lucia looked at the Paris Daily in front of her. As a woman, she was shocked by Sophie's breathtaking beauty. Because she didn't like music, Princess Lucia quickly turned the page to an interview with the Duke of Rose. In addition to a large number of preparations for the development of the festival, and the participation of Sophie Mathilde in this interview, the more attractive is undoubtedly the visit to Sophie Mathilde's daily life. What are your hobbies besides music? I like to take a bath. The whole person's body floats in a warm pool, and the rose petals are companionship. It is a kind of enjoyment. Dancing is also good. I often dance alone in the Rose Castle while relaxing my body and the heart. Of course, I also like the recent photography photos, especially the photos you gave me. I am very satisfied. The same is true of the music master of the Paris Daily. He wants to know her original words. Besides music, I also like to dance. After dancing and taking a bath, it will be very pleasant to be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 388. The same newspaper has different meanings in the eyes of different people. Music lovers pay attention to music, and the city is concerned about gossip. The vulgar simply smashed into the beautiful pictures in the newspaper. Compared with the high lending rate of other newspapers, almost no one is willing to lend a special edition of this festival's music festival, especially the first version of the full version of the Duke of Rose, and it is counted by countless people. Carefully cut and preserved in the most precious places. Although the original contract has not yet ended, it is impossible to see the general obstacles from the last step in the fog, but in this short time, the music master Sophie feels a strange sense of sight. Her name is being mentioned by countless people, and with a passionate mood. The day before, Ziwei and what she said was not purely ridiculous. Although this is likely to be a tricky way of deviating from the priesthood, the importance of Sylvester Frost in her heart is even more important for the music master, who can only slowly explore the step. A great improvement. The Midsummer Night Music Festival originally ignited the enthusiasm of the Paris citizens, and the full circulation of the 150,000 copies of the Par Daily newspaper undoubtedly ignited the climax and formed a win-win situation. There are naturally winners, and the Marquis of Gloucester has just returned home from Versailles and received a very bad news. The Paris Daily has a best-selling 150,000 copies. The Marquis of Gloucester's face sank. Take a copy and show it to me. Different from the hens of the hens, the Marquis of Gloucester is a handsome man with a light face like a peach. He is not only sought after by countless ladies, but also has a gossip to spread him, and King Charles VIII has a far more intimate relationship than the monarch. Anyway, every time Queen Barbara saw the Marquis of Gloucester, there was no good face. After reading the Palais Daily, the Marquis of Gloucester had to admit that this is an epoch-making newspaper. In particular, such a vivid picture of vividness is undoubtedly a big killer. It can be said that Palais Daily once again, it led a revolution in the newspaper industry. From now on, I am afraid that the sales of newspapers without such pictures will plummet. How many copies did the evening newspaper sell today? Asked the Marquis of Gloucester, calmly. Today's Parley Evening News only sold more than 38,000 copies, and many of them were not sold in the hands of newspaper children compared with the usual sales of 50,000 or so. The decline has been very huge. It is. And the Marquis of Gloucester believes that if he does not respond quickly, the sales of the Par Evening News will continue to fall. First, to investigate the changes in the newspapers of the Pi Daily, the old Murdoch definitely did not have this means. The Marquis of Gloucester quickly issued the order. Second, I remember the Violet Chamber of Commerce also used to have you sent a camera. This should be the result of the camera. Quickly study how to improve our newspapers in accordance with the style of the Pars. After seeing the people go out of the mansion, the face of the Marquis of Gloucester has finally turned into a gloomy storm. The Pi Evening News, although it does not produce much benefit in money, is its own eyes and mouthpieces. An important one can affect the channels of the minister. The Par Daily and the Par Evening News have too many positions and overlaps in terms of name and content. Once the Pi Daily rises, the Evening News will naturally be greatly affected. But in this case, the Marquis of Gloucester also saw the opportunity from the crisis. Over the years, the highest sales volume of the Pi Evening News has not reached 80,000 copies. Compared with the flying sales of the other party, it seems that there is still a lot of room for improvement. If you can completely swallow the other party, then the cold march of the Marquis of Gloucester flashed cold. On the afternoon of the day, the Pi Daily newspaper welcomed a distinguished uninvited guest. The guest who appeared here is Princess Lucia. She is dressed in a luxurious dress, with a small hat and a pair of pink lace gloves. The whole person seems to be 10 years younger and full of youthful vitality. Where is your chief reporter Joe Bradley? I want to see him. In the face of the newspaper members who received the Princess Lucia made a request directly. Old Murdoch is the only one who knows the true identity of the chief reporter Joe Bradley, but he does not think that Mr. Sci-fi can ignore the request of a princess. Therefore, the old Murdoch informed Sci-fi directly through the contact crystal left by Sci-fi. Half a magic time, Joe, the chief reporter of the outing interview, finally came back, and the impatience of Princess Lucia, who was waiting impatiently, came in hand with a copy of yesterday's Palais Daily. You are Joe Bradley? I want you to take pictures of me be as beautiful as the Duke of Rose. Sci-fi's eyes are bright, and to be honest, if the Par Daily is to be sold continuously, then there must be a bright spot that continues to attract public attention. As the only princess of the royal family, the only daughter of Charles VIII, as a high-level magician, Princess Lucia, who studied at the Royal Academy of Magic, is undoubtedly a suitable candidate for the cover of the first edition of the Parley Daily tomorrow. Of course, but this is the bonus of the exclusive interview. Joe did not seem to be shocked by the distinguished identity of Princess Lucia. He still maintained his usual posture and expression, and calmly stated his own conditions. No problem, Princess Lucia is a beautiful woman. Her first thought after seeing the souvenir of Sophie Mathilde in the Par Daily is that she should be as good as her. The chief reporter, Joe, who is able to capture the thrilling beauty of the moment, is undoubtedly the key to helping her achieve her wishes. So Sci-fi did not hesitate to directly interview Princess Lucia at the location of Princess Lucia's room at the Royal Academy of Magic. Princess Lucia also has a small villa here, which is a very good condition, but it seems that she is not quite suitable with her princess status. Princess Lucia, do you still have your own castle and mansion? Sci-fi looked at the surrounding scenery and asked curiously. This problem clearly touched the pain point of Princess Lucia. She responded with some anger, I am not Sophie Mathilde. So many princesses in the Kingdom of France, they lived in Versailles before adulthood, only married. The man can become the hostess of a castle. To be continued.